Inhale. Exhale. Okay, good. So if you still have a few minutes on Taiji paradigm, any section you want to work on specifically of your maybe the left side movements, because if you notice the form itself, all the movements in the front are typically right-sided motions, and the back side would be a left movement. So generally the left side is not going to be as coordinated as the right side because your left side movements aren't done as often, or when you're learning it in the beginning, you spent a lot more time on it. So that's one of the reasons why your left side might not be as good. Certain postures, brush knee, pat horse mane are done on both sides, but fan to the back is typically done only on one side. So we have in the drills both. Carry tiger to the mountain. Let's just try that, see how that looks. So let's push to that mirror. And then we sit back and make the transition through the carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, so just go through the motion to get to that point, right? And continue. So, okay, so this is where it's a little confusing. Carry tiger to mountain is the drill, is lower hoop, upper hoop, palms out. Cross hands, and then lower hoop again. So it's just cycling through the geometry of positions, lower hoop, shoulder height, upper hoop, palms out. Okay. When you cross your arms, you have an option of crossing one on the right or one on the left, depending, where it shows up in the form. Like in the long form, your right hand's going to be on the outside. And the back side of the Taiji paradigm, so the left hand is outside. Because in this, the left hand becomes the raising of the hand. In the long form, it becomes brush, knee, and push. So that shows you that one posture links to the next posture. And that's why forms are created to teach you the transition to connect postures. Because on the functional side of the postures, you can set up a scenario to go from one position to the next and kind of go through the process of learning, how to make that transition. So carry tiger to the mountain. This is essentially your stork flaps wing position, right? So when we speak of geometry of position, what you're really developing is muscle memory for a position. Now when you cross the hands, you're looking for your center line, and you're looking to be in a position where your elbows are like this. So you can see from a side view that it's not too close and it's not way out there. So you have to find that angular position, which is really strum the lute if you were to go in that position. But at the same time, if you cross your hands here and then laterally open and then pull your elbows in, you're holding the ball, right? The small ball when we do the standing meditation. So all these positions that we go through, whether it's transitional or holding, is developing the skeletal structures. Those are the geometry of position. So when we go from here, in the form, you're in the down position, square position. When you release and sit back and you turn, you create the arc that wraps your body and then goes up into the upper hoop position, and then turn the palms out. Then you sit back. Then you take your right foot and pivot till it faces 90 degrees. Then you shift your weight and step up till your feet are parallel. So you have to line up your toes, and then you drop your elbows till you have a cross hand position. And then the raising of the hand becomes the next motion. So you may not see that. So let's do it with the mirrors if you have it. So maybe you can watch for the first time, right? So follow my hands, watch for a second. After pushing, the first thing you do is you have to shift your weight to the front leg. So the term I use, shift, really means you're in the 70-30 position, and then when you shift, you bring a minute amount of strength, additional strength over that leg. So that's bringing your knee a little bit more forward. And that happens, in other instances. But once you do that, your hands and your feet actually become a relationship, or your knees, right? Because now you're sinking. Now when I sit back, I want to release my wrists. So now I went from a substantial to a releasing, which is now my arms have relaxed. Now when I start to turn, I lead with my shoulder, and then the hands are going to wrap around like this. Now this wrapping around is creating a motion from the turn. So now your arms, because they were relaxed now, are directed like this. So my fingertips essentially trail the motion until I get to here. And then I round out and I go forward. And then I lift my back and I bring that knee forward again. Right? Shift. So there's your shift. And then as you continue to go up, you're lifting your back till your spine is vertical. And you turn your palms out at the end of the movement. Then you sit back and you begin to pivot. Now when you begin to pivot, this is where sometimes we lose the idea of conscious intent. Because I'm in the upper hoop position, my left arm becomes the structure, my right arm is the passive motion, but it's there. It's sustained. So once I get to here and it's sustained, I begin to turn my foot after I sit back, and now here's the intent. And then we shift to here, and the intent goes to the other arm. Because I brought weight to this arm, I have to firm up this arm. This arm is just going for the ride, sustained, and then we're here. The toe goes down, or the toe's down, the heel is up, and we sink. So when I sink my elbow and relax and reset to center, now my arms are crossed. I sink down, and then I lift. And there's your body. So there's a lot of, what's that? There's a lot in that transition, because it's a transition. So if you're trying to build the relationships in the upper and lower body, the movement should be here, 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 lift, back, turn, cross, depending on which is here, down, up, down, around, and then we're here. Stork flaps wings. Upper movement, right? So Carry Tiger Mount covers all of that when we do the drill. Now along with that, everything that goes up is floating and you're lifting without resistance. On the downside, you relax and use gravity to channel the motion. So if I'm here, I relax, I release, I turn, I release and fold, lift. So all of this is geometry of position, right? If I go to my right, it's like this, and that's what happens when we go in the long form, when I carry tiger this way to the left side. Now, my elbows go in, and then they go up. So your torso is actually moving. So that's something that's not obvious, because, knowing is not knowing. If your body doesn't understand the fact that it actually moves, and it's not moving because it's a response to your breath, it's moving, partially it's that, but that's another story. It's an intentional lift as an intent, right? So you lift because you're telling your back to straighten. And when you round and you bend, you're telling your body to bend. So if the body cooperates, then it'll do what you want it to do. Otherwise, it becomes still not knowing. So when does it start to know? When you do it long enough and often enough, because we're creatures of habit. And if you do it over and over again, eventually the body recognizes that's supposed to happen. Once that happens by itself in subconscious movement, then you can actually refine the motion, because now the angular position, how that feels, comes into another level of understanding. So that's Carry Tiger to the Mountain. We can try it 2 times and we'll go to the long form. Okay, so you're in this position, and I'll just talk you through it, and you begin sync. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Bend and stork flap swings. So as you can see, when you go through the process and you're conscious of all the little things that happen, it becomes disrupted. It feels like it's not something that you were doing earlier when you just kind of went through the motions. Now when you start to think about it, you're trying to recreate or recruit the musculature that is required to do that movement, and then it starts to slowly become part of your movement. But meanwhile, you forget all the little things that we talked about because this isn't working, that's not working, that's not working. So that's why you go through sort of, it's not completely awkward, but it is an awkward stage. So let's try that one more time. Ready? And then I'll count you through it, then we'll try it 2 times on your own. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, and you're there. Okay, shake that out. Okay, let's try it once on your own and just kind of flow through it and see if you can get it to work, okay? Go. Okay, so I'll do it once for you, and then you can pick up on it. I won't say anything about it, right? So there's lots of little manipulations in there. So that's a visual. You house that as a, an image.